Ms. Patrizia Heidegger. Ms. Patrizia Heidegger, Director of Global Policies and Sustainability of European Environmental Bureau from Brussels, Belgium. And European Environmental Bureau is the largest network in Europe of environmental citizens organizations. If I'm not wrong, from 35 countries, maybe around 170 or 171 civil society bodies are there in this body. Welcome, Ms. Heidegger, the last, but never the least, a very important talk now to you. Over to you, Ms. Patrizia.
Thank you so much, Professor Chaudhry. Good evening, everyone. I'm very happy to be part of this discussion today. It's extremely interesting to listen to all of you, being practitioners and experts in the field of recycling in different parts of the world and working with different waste streams. So what I will be talking about is more from the perspective of somebody who works on policy rather than, being a practitioner. So I would like to talk a little bit about how we can actually, through the right policies, build an enabling framework with the right policies that allow for, all these great examples that we've been listening to today to, to scale up and to become the new norm, because we all know that, despite all these great examples that we've been listening to, these are not yet the norm. These are still only best practice examples. And we need to together work on, at the national level, at regional and also at global level, to create a regulatory framework that makes the things that you already do, these great examples, really the new norm, and to create a business environment where you can really thrive and become the new norm. So I'm talking from a European perspective. We are based in Brussels. And we're working on influencing mostly European environmental policies, but also global environmental policies, where we kind of see a specific role for us as the European environmental movement to put in our weight. So I'm also going to share a couple of slides with you. I'm just going to share my screen. So, I'm skipping the introduction because you've already done that for me. So, when I'm speaking now from a European perspective, let me assure you that what I want to do here is just to share a bit what's happening around environmental policy developments in Europe at the moment. This is with no means to kind of say that what we're doing here is, what everybody else in the world should be doing. I just would like to share some of the solutions that we are advocating for at the moment in Europe, and which we believe are interesting to discuss with other nations, other regions in the world. So I will be focusing on circular economy and recycling, but just to kind of give you a bit of a context where these discussions are happening at the moment. Currently, the most important policy framework that we have at the European Union level is the so-called European Green Deal. It's a massive package of new policies, of new laws, of new strategies, of new investment schemes that are all meant to make Europe the first climate neutral continent by 2050 and to achieve a zero pollution environment. So obviously there's a very big objective. Which we, of course, as the environmental movement in Europe welcome. This is what we've been fighting for, to get such a policy framework for decades. So in this European Green Deal, you have, it's a big package of all kinds of different new policies and rules, obviously on climate-related issues, on pollution, on energy, on industry, on the built environment, on renovation, on mobility, on agriculture, on ecosystems and biodiversity. So it's this whole package, and it's very exciting at the moment that all these new policies are being developed. So it's a great window of opportunity for us really to lift the regulatory framework to a new level, where businesses who have sustainable products can really thrive. So if we zoom into kind of what's happening around circular economy, we have a new circular economy action plan now in the European Union. And as part of that circular economy action plan, the EU will roll out kind of more sector-specific policies around sectors that have been defined that kind of, the most important one to tackle. Textiles is one of them, so I'll come back to that, and it ties in nicely with the work that Monique has presented. So before I go into the examples, just one kind of reference to the famous pyramid or the waste hierarchy. So in the EU, we also still have a major challenge with actually kind of delivering on the most favored option, which is the option of preventing waste in the first place. Also in Europe, we struggle with continuous growth of the amount of waste that we produce. So this new circular economy action plan will focus a lot on waste prevention in the first place, and putting new laws in place that kind of make the necessity for recycling, kind of reduce the necessity for recycling by actually preventing waste in the first place. So we're putting a lot of emphasis on kind of maintaining that waste hierarchy, and not focusing kind of only on recycling as the only solution, but to always favor prevention over the other solutions. I just brought this one graph, which probably many of you have seen, on the projections of where we're going with plastic production. So you see us somewhere in the red space there, and you see this crazy exponential growth which is projected for virgin plastic production in the world. So obviously, even if we improve technology around plastic recycling, even if we develop better methods, etc., we will not be able to, nobody will need all that recycled plastic if we continue with this exponential growth of virgin plastic production. So obviously what we need globally and at national level are also rules that make it less attractive to produce from raw materials and virgin materials, to make sure that the different recycling industries can take over a much more important place in our economies. Now, what is happening around the Circular Economy Action Plan in Europe, and what are some of the key ideas? There's a strong focus on sustainable product policy and eco-design. That's something that's, the EU has been working on already for quite a while, but obviously only a relatively small number of products are already covered by eco-design directives in Europe. So we want to extend that to as many products as possible. To really put an obligation on producers to provide sustainable products. We're working on improving product durability, reusability, upgradability, and repairability. One example I'll get back to in a moment is, of course, electronic devices, where, for instance, repairability is still a major issue. We're also advocating for a kind of even stricter phase out of hazardous chemicals in all products, to, of course, also make it easier to have a non-toxic circular economy and to recycle products without hazardous chemicals in them. We are also working on legislation to increase the content of recycled materials in products, on creating an enabling framework for remanufacturing and high quality recycling, for reducing the carbon environmental footprints of all the different products, and really restricting single-use products. I mean, I guess here, for instance, there's similar policies being developed, for instance, in India and in the EU on, for instance, phasing out single-use plastic products. And what we're also kind of giving a lot of focus on is really the empowerment of consumers. As consumers, we have a right to kind of correct and easily accessible product information. In the EU, we have an EU eco-label. And the interesting thing about the EU eco-label is that it's really an institutional eco-label. It's not kind of a private third-party certification scheme, but it's, let's say, an official institution-based eco-labeling scheme, which are trying to expand to many other products, because, again, it's limited to quite a few products. We're also currently working on a new regulation against false green claims. I guess that's something that everybody who offers truly sustainable products suffers from, because it's so easy to make false green claims. So that's something that's on the agenda right now. We're advocating quite a bit on a right to repair. So it's not just about, well, products should be repairable. No, we actually have a right to repair the stuff that we buy. So there's a whole campaign around that. And then, of course, we also work on better extended producer responsibility schemes, on clear waste reduction targets for very specific waste streams, and on specific strategies for sectors that are particularly problematic, such as textiles. Batteries are high on the agenda now, electronic equipment, end-of-life vehicles, which some of you have mentioned today, the construction sector, of course, which is one of the biggest source of waste or the biggest source in Europe, packaging and plastic. So let me just give you two brief examples, what that means more concretely. So around electronic equipment, there's a new circular electronics initiative, which really seeks to step up the measures for electronics and ICT. This covers mobile phones, tablets, laptops, which now also fall under the Eco-Design Directive. So they need to be designed to kind of deliver higher durability, repairability, upgradability, etc. This right to repair is embedded in this new legislation. And there's interesting, new rules, for instance, around introducing a common charger. I mean, we all know this problem that for every single device, we need a different charger. And if you look for a charger, we're never going to find the right one because every single product comes with a different charger, which of course creates a lot of waste. So also kind of phasing out these kind of unnecessary products in a way. And we're also kind of trying to tighten the legal framework to prevent e-waste exports, which are, of course, still a major problem for a region like Europe and the US alike. On textiles, there's also work going on a EU strategy for textiles that really wants to boost a European market for sustainable and circular textiles, where we try to create a market for textile reuse, addressing the problem of fast fashion and really driving new business models, where we want to include textiles in eco-design measures. I mean, we all know that at the moment, the vast majority of textiles are not designed to be recycled. Of course, companies are, developing very innovative ways to recycle textiles, but the problem is, of course, that most of these products in the first place are not made to be recycled. So we're trying to change that, to change the uptake of secondary raw materials, to make easy access to reuse and repair services, to incentivize new models, such as product as service models or sharing models, and also setting up very strict rules for higher levels of separate collection of textile waste, because also in Europe, most of the textile waste, there's really no good end-of-life kind of collection. And as consumers, we often don't even know what to do with our end-of-life textiles. So there's a lot of new regulatory measures coming up that will make it hopefully easier for innovative companies and innovative technologies to take up more of the market and to really become the new norm. So it's really an exciting time to kind of drive these policy changes. Well, to sum up, what we believe, what it really takes is that technological innovation and also social innovation really need an enabling framework which is based on progressive regulation. Otherwise, all these good practices will never scale up, or they will maybe only scale up, over a very long period of time. So having progressive regulation in place really helps all these best practices to scale up and to become the new norm. We also believe that while we, of course, need technological innovation, we have to also focus on social innovation. We need to establish new social practices. Of course, that's quite different from, each culture and each economy to another. In Europe, for instance, we talk a lot about, more sharing schemes, whether it's, sharing our passenger cars, or whether it's sharing bicycles, or sharing tools that we don't need to buy, but that we can share with our neighbors, our community, etc. Shifting the focus from buying products to buying services, refocusing from quantity to quality again. So, these kind of social innovations are very much necessary next to the technological innovation. And as I said at the beginning, recycling, of course, is key. But the best way to tackle pollution is to reduce it at source and to address the ever-increasing amount of material use and waste in the first place. So at the end, I have one message around one kind of specific policy solution that we're working on at the moment, which is the opportunity to actually agree on a global treaty on plastics. That's a very exciting development at the moment. I'm sure many of you are following this development. So plastic pollution is a global challenge, and plastic supply chain is a global supply chain. So we need also a global solution next to the national level solutions. And there's a real opportunity to achieve an agreement next year in February at the 5th UN Environment Assembly to start negotiations around a global treaty on plastics. And such a treaty could help us to define a global objective, how we can curb plastic waste, how we can curb the plastic production from virgin materials, and how we can kind of establish a safe circular economy for plastic. And such a treaty could also help to deal with existing pollution and cleanups. And establishing recycling targets globally could also give a boost really to recycling companies all around the world. So we need you to kind of also talk to your governments about a global treaty on plastics. So governments like the Indian government, like the US government, like the Chinese government are, of course, key in achieving this next year. So if you're also interested in learning more about this campaign, I'm very happy to share more information about the ideas around that global treaty on plastics. So don't hesitate to reach out. We're happy to also make the connection to those who are driving this campaign at the global level. And we hope that we can count on your support for that push in the next months. So thanks a lot for your attention.